Hello, lovely people. It's Victoria. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. And it is pretty much exactly 10:30 at night. I need to get up at 7:30 tomorrow morning. And I was thinking of trying to get 8 hours of sleep, but for some reason, this has just come over me to where, like, I at least need to start trying to film this video. This is probably going to be a bit of a monster video, and it is late. I just chugged some Coke, some drinkable Coke. It is late, so I really need to try not to yell, but it's been a while since I've done like an internet type commentary, let alone one that made me super angry. So this is gonna be an angry video, and in a turn of events, this is actually a very current topic. This is about a podcast episode that aired yesterday, and like everyone's talking about it right now. I have watched Adam McIntyre's video on this, Vangelina Scov's, and I just watched Fat Zajak's video pretty much as it premiered. So we are talking about the abomination that was Colleen Ballinger's interview on Raven and Miranda Maday's podcast Tea Time. Wanted to pay them the respect of referring to them by their last names because they were married, and everyone's just saying Raven Simone's podcast, but it is both of their podcasts. So, and Raven also has like 4 last names, so I honestly don't know which one she would prefer to go by, so we're just gonna use that one. Hi, I realized I forgot to do my call to action, so here I am with terrible lighting. I'm Victoria Ashlyn. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I make videos about whatever I feel like talking about whenever I feel like talking about it. So please consider subscribing. I would love to hit 300 subscribers by the end of the year. I feel like that's very doable. Please consider listening to my newest release. Again, I am pushing it so hard because I'm so freaking proud of this thing, and really surprised with how people seem to be resonating with it once they find it. I'm gonna try to make a long form video once a week. I feel like that's a good goal for me now that I'm not consistently working on this project anymore. I do still have some, outside goals, but like I really want to make content. I love making content, and obviously focusing on like finding gigs to play and stuff like that and applying for that, but just for funsies and catharsis and therapeutic needs. And I might make another mini life update video, or just kind of talking about little things that have been happening in my life. But for now, we're gonna keep it to the bullshit that is Colleen Ballinger. So back to talking me. I'm talking right now, but you know what I mean. Okay, so I want to paint a picture for you, okay? Because things have been so good in my life, all right? I am on my floating high vibe. I'm sober. We are flying high. I got like 63 monthly listeners on Spotify in a day. I went from 5 to 68. That was freaking crazy. I don't know what that was about. Obligatory little reminder thing to please go stream my new EP, Tiny Sailboat. It is on Spotify. It's on pretty much everything except SoundCloud. I really do need to get it on there. It is on my YouTube channel via playlist of lyric videos. I did live vertical lyric videos. The response to that has been so good. I uploaded clips of those onto shorts, and I've just gotten such beautiful, thoughtful comments. People have been resonating with it. And the engagement's been so good. And I got a bunch of listeners on Spotify, and my sobriety's been going well, and I've been loving my job, and my family's doing well, and just, yeah, like music, everything's going good. We are chilling, and then I'm kind of getting into a groove with videos, and I just did my Cinderella story video that I published last week, and I was planning on doing either another movie commentary, or these are probably going to be my 2 next videos, so I feel okay kind of spoiling them. K-pop Demon Hunters, I need to make myself finally make that video, or doing sips and tips, talking about ways that I have stayed sober, or little things that have helped me stay sober. So like we're in our wholesome, peaceful, we are talking about good vibe type things, and I'm just like, let's not get mad. We're just gonna like ride the good vibes, good energy. We're attracting good things. And then it's one of those situations where I literally have a short list of 36 video ideas, and then some shit happens that within a day it goes to the top of the list when it wasn't even on the list to begin with. And this is one of those times, because I am planning on just making more wholesome, peaceful, vibey content And then Colleen fucking Ballinger goes on this godforsaken podcast. So I wrote this script over the course of this day. It is 9 pages long, around there, and I haven't really looked over it, but I think I pretty much wrote most of it as I was watching Fat Jack's video, and I'm going to be referencing her a lot in this. I want to cite my sources. My face is so itchy, I don't know why, but we're just going to be walking through the cacophony of dishonesty. I'm thinking of calling this video the Doe-Eyed Doublethink of Colleen Ballinger, because she just plays this shucksy, like, I'm just like so soft-voiced and innocent, and I'm just so dumb, and I was just so dumb, you guys. I'm just a dumb girl, even though I'm 38. So we're just gonna dive into it, and I'm gonna keep looking over here because this is where my laptop is, even though I don't have a monitor anymore. Disclaimer, should I be wearing my glasses for this? So disclaimer, and also just for context of this situation, I never watched Miranda Sings. When I was younger, as a kid, I never was a Colleen fan, really, at all. I never consumed her content. I'm not even trying to be that bitch of like, I never liked her, I never thought she was funny. I genuinely never thought she was funny. She was never my type of humor. Maybe it's because I'm a singer and like I take singing seriously, but I just like don't think intentionally singing off key is funny. That's just never been my vibe. I don't think just talking in a weird tone of what, like, it was just very... And I didn't even really watch her jokes very much, but I just never thought she was funny. I just thought her humor was really dumb, and I'm not trying to shade her former fans. I just never really understood how it appealed to anyone over the age of about 8. And that is especially, like, relevant to me because she's gonna pass or try to play off that her content was originally primarily for adults and that she has a ton of adult fans, and maybe she does. I just really, that's surprising to me, and I definitely would not be one of them, and because I did not find her funny as a kid when a lot of other people did. I remember Lily saying that she was a YouTuber that could make her like laugh until she peed herself, and I was just like, I don't see it. I personally, I'm gonna be a snob for a minute, I got through middle school on my 2 main bitches were Jenna Marbles and Kingsley, and that is fucking class S tier comedy right there, and they stay good. I wish that Kingsley had more re-uploads because I love his content so much, and I really do need to watch more of his newest content because I believe he is back and has been back for a while, but that is unrelated. So again, this is not to knock people that like Colleen or anything, or be like, I'm just so much, like, it's not about that. It's just also laying the scene of, I've never had any personal bias. I've never had anything against her, but I just never liked her. I never knew that much about her. I also was never familiar with the lore of her channel or her shows or her character, anything like that. And I'm gonna be so real with you right now because I am very familiar with the lore of this situation. I've never talked about Colleen or anything that was going on this channel, but I'm very thoroughly familiar with the situation. To be fair though, and maybe this is hypocritical because I'm going to get on these 2 podcast hosts for not doing any research, I am familiar with the details. However, I have not, I'm going to move my hands a lot, so just if that annoys you, it is what it is. I have not gone back and watched pretty much any of the original videos that are going to be involved in this story. The ukulele video, Adam's original video, Cody's video. I don't even think I really, besides Adam's content, I didn't really watch any of these like in full. I would watch a lot of them when watching commentary about it, so like I am familiar with it, and I've heard a lot of these things being retold in commentary pieces, but I have not gone back and watched the original material, just full disclosure. So because of that, the association of like what things were revealed in certain videos may not be super accurate, but I think the general timeline is pretty good, and we're also just going to do an overall summary of the things that were revealed. My face, I don't know what is up. Okay, so we're going to give the bullet pointed kind of backstory that's probably going to end up being like 20 minutes, but so this starts with Adam's first video in 2020, and he has since said that this lacked a lot of context and did not have a ton of details because this was not originally meant for the world. He was a very, very, very small channel at this point. He had, I think, like 1,000 subscribers, and made this basically just for people that already kind of knew the situation, that were already in the Colleen fandom, to explain why he was no longer going to be involved because he had been previously such a big part of the fandom. I think I'm gonna flip my camera so that I just don't have to keep staring at myself in the face. I can see myself in the reflection of my window, but it's just a little better so I'm not just like staring at my face, and this could be a little bit of a wind down before I go to bed. So he left out a lot of details. This was kind of like a TLDR type of video, and then Colleen responded with a super manipulative video and kind of exploited those gaps in the story, exploited the details, and did what she is going to do a lot of, which is playing dumb and saying she didn't realize it was uncomfortable and she didn't realize that this was inappropriate. A lot of people were swayed by this narrative that she pushed forward of exploiting the details, kind of making Adam out to be this dishonest person, this manipulator that was like trying to take her down, and a lot of her fans really grasped onto this narrative, and it seemed like the general consensus on the internet was that people believed Colleen and that Adam was like a bitter fan trying to like get clout from her or some bullshit. And I don't really remember, I don't think I was super familiar with this situation when it first came out. I think I was generally like, I remember hearing she was creepy, she was talking to fans, whatever, and I wasn't super familiar with like the characters and who was saying what and like the timeline of events. But again, not trying to be that bitch, I just never liked her, so I just never got involved in this. And if I had been familiar with the characters, I feel like I would have believed Adam. Maybe I'm biased because I am a mucker, I love his content, but he like pulled himself up by the bootstraps and just continued posting so consistently, just so much. This dude typically makes so many videos. Like he can make freaking 8 videos a day, sometimes more. Not every single day, but like he gets in these spurts where he just like uploads a storm of content. Like he's such a hard worker, and it's quality content too. So I think I started watching him like 2022, like consistently. I think I'd known of him with the situation for a while before, and then I really consistently started watching his videos like 2022-ish, right before the situation re-emerged in the public eye. So 2023, I think like early June 2023, this other person, new character unlocked, Cody Tyler, makes this video. I had previously only known Cody because of like 4 years earlier, they had made a rant video talking about the James Charles Morphe palette and how the pink shade stained their eyelids, and then James gave this super condescending response of like, everyone knows that pink shade stain your eyelids, and just was a fucking James Charles about it. I am thinking of making a James Charles video, but that's definitely, or probably more than one video, but that's going to be a situation where I get really angry. So like I have to be in a certain headspace to do the ranty videos about YouTubers that make me mad. That's definitely on the list. But Cody Tyler decides to make a video in a completely self-serving grab for money and attention. I think it's basically confirmed at this point that they did this just because they needed a new laptop, or they wanted a new laptop. So after sitting on receipts and proof and corroboration of Adam's story for years, after contributing to the hate train that was launched again against a then 17-year-old Adam, by the way, when he first came out with this, he was 17 in COVID and said he lost all his friends, and Colleen facilitated this hate campaign and basically egged her fans on to launch hate against him, cut him out of everything, just like shun him essentially. Also, I'm gonna give a big blanket allegedly, and I'm gonna be saying allegedly a few times throughout this, just to kind of cover my ass. Just please let it be known, I fully believe all the victims. I fully believe everything that has been claimed and proven in many circumstances. There are receipts and videos and screenshots and just so much evidence. But I believe everyone that I'm going to be mentioning, all the claims that I'm going to be mentioning, except Colleen, obviously. But like, just want that to be known. The use of the word allegedly does not diminish the degree to which I believe these people. I just am nervous about these kinds of things, especially people that seem desperate to control the narrative about them. So even though I am a tiny channel, I would not put it past most people, especially the kind of person that Colleen seems to be. So there's gonna be a lot of glare, but I'm reading from my computer screen and I just know that I'm gonna get a headache if I don't do this. So yeah, Cody reveals these screenshots and then tries to like make themselves also a victim of the situation, which nobody bought, and I really appreciate that. And we're gonna go over the bullet points of what was revealed. I'm just gonna do it all at once because, like I said, I'm not 100% sure on like what exactly was revealed within each video, so we're just gonna do it all in one fell swoop. So this renewed interest in Adam's story, and the internet does that wonderful thing it does where it realizes that it's been lied to and manipulated, and that they maybe had the wrong opinion about someone that they were so vehemently against 5 minutes ago. And so then the narrative changes. And then with this, additional stories came forward, such as from Becky, who experienced, she talked about being in an uncomfortable skit in one of Colleen's shows. I'll just detail that really quickly. It was pretty much known in Colleen's fandom of predominantly children, and she's gonna go back and forth on that a lot, of like acknowledging that there are a lot of kids in her audience, but also it's not a kid's show, but also like very contradicting. But it was known in her fandom that to get picked for crowd work and get brought up on stage to be a part of different things, the girls needed to dress porn or just dress inappropriately, revealing. So I don't know how old Becky was at this time, but she was definitely a teenager. I believe, I want to say 16, 15, 16 maybe. She was wearing a romper and she was brought up on stage for this yoga skit, which Colleen will be like, it was a couples yoga challenge that was trending at the time. And the fact that she really says that as an explanation and just goes over the fact that like it was a couples yoga, like also, at least back in the day, a majority of people that I saw doing that challenge were adult couples, because it was pretty intimate like positions that were happening. But anyway, she brings Becky up on stage and basically spreads her legs apart while she's wearing a romper. And then like a fart noise played when her legs were open enough. And then Becky just talked about feeling really sexualized, really vulnerable, walking out of the venue and feeling like grown men were looking at her a certain way and just feeling really disgusting. And I do not know, she has since spoken out about being, I don't know if I should say SA'd. I'm not monetized or anything. I just don't know if it's, you know, triggering to hear. I don't know if this was before or after, but she like was reminded of that in this experience, or that experience in retrospect reminds her of that headspace, and like it was just bad, it was bad vibes. I'm not trying to be reductive when I say that. And then Oliver also came forward about a character that is vastly overlooked in this whole situation, which is Colleen's brother Trent. Colleen has a bunch of siblings, I guess, and Trent very notably, allegedly, took advantage of her fame to get very inappropriately close with minors and was accused of very serious grooming by Oliver in particular. I heard his story on the H3 podcast a few years ago, and again, I really should have probably gone back and listened to the details, but like I just remember being completely horrified. He was allegedly grooming this 13-year-old, 14-year-old child. I think he still identified as female at the time, but absolutely disgusting. I don't remember if it was clearly stated the degree to which Colleen was aware of it or complicit, or if she was, allegedly. Then there was Johnny Silvestri, who was pretty much proven to be fabricating his stories of abuse, which were pretty much entirely targeted towards Colleen's former husband, Joshua Evans. And that was a whole contentious situation because he was always really vague about what he experienced, and it seemed like he was just trying to co-opt other people's survivor stories for his own attention, fame, relevance, I don't know, and it seemed to be motivated by a revenge fantasy against Josh. I saw some people speculating that he like had a crush on Josh, and when Josh didn't give him what he wanted, or he was didn't get the fame from him that he wanted or something, he launched into this revenge plot against him. He swooped this amazing deep dive doc about all of it, and really was like it was an expose, truly, and was the one to like break the story that a lot of this, if not all of it, was fabricated. However, Johnny did also claim to be witness to another one of the bullet points that we're going to go through, which is being sent Trisha Paytas's nudes, but also I think he ended up being also kind of complicit in that as well, that it came out that like he didn't look too good in that situation either, but he did corroborate that he was sent her nudes. Hi, editing me here. So I just rewatched the bit of the 4-hour-long Swoop documentary that she did about Johnny Silvestri and the section that had to do with Trisha Paytas, because I was like, I remember him doing something weird when it came to Trisha's nudes, and like I remember feeling weird about it, and he was exposed for like not being completely innocent. So from what I've just refreshed myself on, he shared screenshots of his exchanges with Colleen that included Trisha's nudes, but did not do adequate censoring, according to Swoop, of the actual nudes, which got his Twitter like taken down or suspended or something. And then he like was super annoyed of that and was like, I mean, I get it, but like, come on, I got put in Twitter jail and whatever. Did not acknowledge publicly that he also initiated the sending of these nudes to Colleen when he was an adult. Acknowledged it in the interview, but I guess the interview like never really saw the light of day until this documentary, but he never acknowledged that publicly in his story. He would look up Trisha Paytas nudes and then download and send them, but claimed that he never did it to body shame Trisha and that she was just an untouchable public figure to him, so he never thought of it as like nefarious or anything like that. But then also, according to Adam McIntyre, who, when he was a child, also had the similar exchange with Colleen of sending Trisha's nudes back and forth, actually like put himself on a pedestal over Adam to say that he was doing something wrong by exchanging these nudes with Colleen as a child, but Colleen was actually making him uncomfortable and harassing him with said nudes without acknowledging the fact that he also initiated the sending of said nudes of Trisha without her consent, coupled with the screenshotted tweets of suggesting a lot of judgment and vitriol and shaming of Trisha for being a sex worker, like his tweet of Colleen's decision to have a podcast with a porn star is questionable. And then also the fact that Swoop had to like repeatedly try to persuade him to take the photos down, because I guess after he was his suspension was lifted or something, the photos remained on his Twitter, and he was saying that they served an essential purpose to his story, so he was really reluctant. But then like a day later he took them down, and then pretty much acted like that was entirely his own decision, and as Swoop said, white knighted himself for taking them down by using her exact words, saying that he realized the photos had served their purpose. So from what I can tell, that was the weirdness of that situation that I kind of forgot at the moment. So the compiled bullet pointed list, I think this is pretty comprehensive. There might be some that I'm forgetting, and again, I will put on the screen. The bullet pointed list of what Colleen was accused of, which I'm pretty sure the majority of this, if not all of it, was proven with evidence. She exploited a then underage Adam McIntyre for unpaid labor by having him serve as her social media manager for, I believe, years, was claimed, while vaguely promising compensation or employment in exchange, but never following through. Agreed to meet up with the then underage Adam, and then changed the plans on him last minute, and then left him stranded in a city he did not live in, with, I believe, no money and basically no way to get home. Agreed or purposefully egged on her fans to launch a hate campaign against Adam after his first video, including telling them to send her evidence of anything he said or wrote about her. She sent a then 14-year-old Adam lingerie in the mail. Her original story was that she said she'd send it to him, she forgot, he tweeted her once to remind her, and then she sent it. This will come up later because that is not the story that she retells. She tells a different version that we will get into in a minute. She regularly communicated with fans, mainly in a group chat, the majority, at least of which, were children, which included venting about her marriage, detailing her intimate life with her then husband, including, I think, joking or just talking about his dick size, asking these children questions such as what their first period was like, losing their virginity, their favorite sex position, etc. And allegedly, I kind of have to say, but allegedly stole Trisha Paytas's paywalled pornographic content and sent it to children while severely bullying and body shaming Trisha at the same time, who she then would go on to have a podcast with, and I think it's fair to say pretend to be friends with. Hi, editing me here. I am actually rewatching bits of Swoop's documentary about Johnny Silvestri so that I can confirm his actions and behavior surrounding Trisha Paytas's nudes, and I just remembered the lovely detail that Colleen was accused of exchanging nudes of other people besides Trisha Paytas, including her own fans, the age of which I have yet to hear confirmation of, so I don't know whether or not they were actually adults. But yeah, Trisha Paytas is not the only one whose explicit material she allegedly sent to other people without their consent. And I was gonna put that on the screen, but I felt like inserting a video of that because, wow. Obviously horrible for, it seems like small potatoes, but like stealing someone's paywalled pornographic content, sending it to minors, and then also body shaming her on top of that. Disgusting, and Trisha was so disgusted that her content was sent to minors and used in that way. Like, that's so violatory and disgusting. So she employed her fans to get dirt on people she disliked, and then other things, just controversies of hers that were already made public, like really gross sexual content, racist content, and including children in suggestive skits in her live shows, which, like, besides things like the yoga skit, there was a notorious incident of having a 9-year-old boy reach into her pants. I guess it was like a pocket in her pants or whatever, but basically like set a scene where she was insinuating that he was like reaching into her pants to pull out cheese puffs that he then ate. So involved child fans in a lot of suggestive skits, a lot of innuendo-based skits that they seem to be aware were inappropriate, but also whether or not the children are aware it's inappropriate really does not make you look better at all. And then also her friendship with JoJo Siwa. She was questioned for a long time about like working with her and being friends with her because they apparently met when JoJo was 11 and then Colleen would have been about 27. So that's kind of the background of like what she was accused of. And so then all this comes out, she drops the worst response video in YouTube history, I think it's still fair to say, on her vlog channel, where she wrote and performed a 10-minute long song just with pretty much every dismissive, manipulative, self-victimizing YouTuber like tagline that you could have possibly imagined. You made this up for clout and I just made a mistake. That doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I just didn't understand the power I had. I was trying to be that weird aunt with my fans and trying to be besties with everybody. But obviously like way more unbearable because she was singing it. And also there's something so eerie about the fact that she made her career off of pretending to sing badly, but in this abomination of a response song, she actually sounded really good in my opinion. I think her voice, like she has a nice voice, and there's something so eerie about actually hearing her sound decent while delivering the most batshit insane soliloquy of all time, or at least like of internet history for sure. Hello. In the spirit of continuing my retroactive research while in the process of editing this video, I just watched Fat Sajak's response/reaction to Colleen's video fall vlog, which I somehow did not watch when it first came out, which is funny because I've literally been watching Fat Sajak for like 3 years. Like, since the Gabbie Hanna BuzzFeed article came out, that was my first video that I saw of hers, and I've just been watching consistently ever since. So I actually saw what Colleen said in the video, which started with an apology and then went into a vlog, and she actually acknowledged that that juxtaposition was really awkward, as if there was no choice but to include them both. They could have been separate videos, but she does the classic, like, I'm not a perfect person, and I've made mistakes, and I realized I had like less than appropriate interactions with my fans and inappropriate elements to my comedy, and my last video was just me being angry and I should have listened and I should have had empathy, but I was just in defensive mode, and I've been listening and learning, and I've been in therapy so much, and I've just missed talking to you guys. Just she does say, I'm sorry for the inappropriate elements of my comedy, but she still rides the, I had nothing but good intentions. And again, the fact that she was so calculated in creating this song, it just makes me like, how much of this was really you just speaking purely from emotion and just so impulsive, and now you're just like, that was just embarrassing and I was just speaking from anger. But here's my vlog and my chickens and my rocks. So yeah, that was basically the video. And so she received a ton of fallout for that, and then she has basically just been vlogging a lot, and she also is in she's gotten a lot of flack for exploiting her children on her vlogs. I don't watch her vlogs or anything, except for Fat Sajak, but Fat Sajak always edits out clips that include her kids. She never includes any of those, but I think it's fair to assume, based on what I've seen people say about her, that she includes her kids a lot. But things have been relatively quiet since then, and I've heard some people say that this was a relatively successful cancellation. It doesn't seem like anyone's really canceled, because people just have to, it only really happens when people fully disengage with their content, and it seems like just a lot of people don't care anymore. Apparently she gets like a few thousand views on her vlogs, but that's about it. And she wants her career back, and this is gonna give, Fat Sajak said it, it's gonna, I'm gonna reference her a lot. It's giving the James Charles Cosmopolitan article of like, James Charles would like to be uncanceled, please. It's giving that energy. So we are brought to this podcast that aired yesterday, I believe, is when it dropped, with Raven and Miranda, you know, coincidental name. They're gonna make a lot of jokes about that, like more than needed to be made, in my opinion. And then the original title of the podcast was crazy as well, by the way. It was originally called something like Colleen Ballinger's, or it was like exclusive, Colleen Ballinger's actual apology video. It has since been retitled Colleen Ballinger Tells Her Side. I think because they have been getting a lot of criticism of this episode, and people are telling them like, it's not too late to delete this episode because this interview is not what y'all think it was. And it's very obvious that they did not do any research. And like, I arguably could have gone through and reviewed some of the source material because I don't remember a ton of the details of this, but I'm, you know, disclaiming what I don't exactly remember. But I feel like I know the intricacies a hell of a lot more than these people, to the point where I would have pressed Colleen on a lot of this that they did not. So what's funny is they begin by, basically they mispronounce her name this entire time. They keep calling her Colleen, which I did think was her name for a while, but it's been pretty much confirmed. I think it's fair to say, like, her name is pronounced Colleen. It's Colleen Ballinger. And they just consistently call her Colleen, and I feel like that's just, it's very indicative of the level of preparation that went into this. And side note, like, I'm pretty much like a lifelong Raven Simone fan, so this is so immensely disappointing on so many levels, and I truly, like, I don't care if this is dramatic to say, like, I do not look at Raven the same way. I cannot look at Raven the same way, especially considering the history she has in the industry, how she was unquiet on set, and just everything. Yeah, I can't look at her the same way. It's so immensely disappointing. And also just considering she was on a talk show and she conducted interviews, the lack of research and just the poor interviewing skills, just in challenging her, in having her open up about things and challenging her deeper. There's some few moments where it's decent and we'll acknowledge those, but this was immensely disappointing. So we're finally gonna get into basically my attempt at a summary of this freaking episode. So I need water for this. Hold on. Okay, I needed to like go to the bathroom and get water. Also, it's worth mentioning that that song, the freaking 10-minute long song, that I can't believe I left out the Toxic Gossip Train hook, which, by the way, that song was like way catchier than it had any right to be. So we get into this freaking interview already. So she begins her pattern of rewriting history. This is going to be a consistent, thorough line throughout this interview. She begins her pattern of rewriting history by lying about why she created the Miranda Sings character. Which again, we're like, might seem small, but just everything is so like multi-layered, and I feel like it just goes into this pattern of her trying to present herself as more innocent and more well-meaning than she actually was, when it's been like on the record that she made the character in order to make fun of people in her theater class that she deemed less talented than they acted. Pretty much like she thought less talented than her, but that they acted super self-confident, and she was just making fun of them. So an inherently mean-spirited motivation, but then she tries to paint it off as just like, oh, I just made this character that sang off-key on purpose, and I just thought it was funny, and I just made everything about her super over-exaggerated. Completely left out the fact that it was making fun of people. That was the entire motivation for the character. Which, this is super nitpicky, I will admit it, but just as a words person and a singer, like, not to be, you know, whatever. But she kept being like, I would sing a little bit above the note or a little bit under the note. But she used so many words, and I just made me want to be like, girl, the word is flat or sharp. You saying I sang a little flat or a little sharp? And that, but I sang a little above the pitch or a little below the pitch. That's so nitpicky, but that was just bugging me. I was like, there's a word for that. You're saying so many words when there are words for what you're saying. But yeah, she says she just sang off-key on purpose because she thought it was funny and her friends thought it was funny. And she used comments that she got as ammo to further exaggerate things. But we completely gloss over that. And Raven calls it performance art, which is very funny. It sounds like you were doing performance art. So like, that's very generous. We're going to be doing a lot of charity work throughout this podcast. Also, a lot of unsolicited donations of justifications, excuses, better ways to word things. Like, these are very charitable podcast hosts, truly. So the intro is already minimizing, also, this kind of jumping around, but like the intro that the two hosts give is extremely minimizing, saying she was accused of grooming without any acknowledgement of the fact that it was proven. Allegations with proof. Then we get into her actual interview, the Miranda thing, and it's this attempted joke bit thing of Miranda being like, so the elephant in the room is, why Miranda? And then Colleen literally apologizes for her character having the same name as this podcast host more frequently and more authentically than she will apologize for anything else, not only throughout the course of this interview, but more than she has for anything else that she's been accused of, with proof, her entire career. Literally anything else in this entire freaking toxic gossip train saga, she apologizes the most for having the same name, her character having the same name as this podcast host. I am not kidding. I wish I was. So Colleen says her content was never made for kids, and that she originally had like an adult leaning audience, mainly like older gay men, and that, like, I will admit, like, Miranda has always been, you could call it camp. I'm not trying to insult the camp style with that, but also, you know, it's, you could argue that it's like a form of camp, you know, trying to be exaggerated. Camp also does typically, though, have some kind of deeper meaning, often like symbolic or political meaning. I'm obviously not an expert on it, but like, I could see her having a bit of an appeal to the gay community. But then Fast Jack was like, are you just trying to pander by mentioning gay people because you're being interviewed by two gay women? And I thought that was an interesting point. But then she was like, says she realized over time that her audience had a lot of children in it and she needed to shift her content. But like, she tries to have it both ways a lot in this interview. She tries to like acknowledge that there were kids in her audience, even though it wasn't made for kids, but she would like try to shift her content to be more kid-friendly, but also keep the innuendos and the sex jokes in there to also appeal to adults, without fully acknowledging how she would then involve kids in these jokes and doesn't seem to fully grasp how inappropriate that then was. And then also just a little distinction for those in the back, because her and the host are going to be making this distinction a lot as if this is like a gotcha, but the grooming that she was accused of, with proof, was not sexual in nature. However, grooming is not exclusively sexual in nature. It is not always just for sexual gratification. It's not always born out of sexual attraction. It is also often motivated by manipulation, exploitation, power, and control, which are the motivators allegedly behind the actions that Colleen was accused of with proof. She claims to not realize there is a parasocial relationship between herself and her fans, who pretty much almost exclusively were children. Raven gives her a softball question by asking if she thought having a team would have helped her make better decisions, and then Colleen latches onto that of like, I wish that I had someone to give me advice and tell me that this wasn't appropriate, tell me that this looked bad, and I'm not using that as an excuse because, and then goes into the OG YouTuber thing of like, there wasn't a blueprint for this, like no one had done this before, so there was like no one to tell me how to do this, but that's not an excuse because there were other YouTubers. She really said there were other OG YouTubers that didn't interact with their fans. No, babe, Fast Jack says this, they just didn't interact with them in the creepy ass way that you did. And she does that thing of like, I'm not making an excuse while making an excuse, because as far as I know, there have never been any allegations of inappropriate communication between fans and Ryan Higa, Michelle Phan, Anthony Padilla, Jenna Marbles, or iJustine, who are all also OG YouTubers, which she like acknowledges in a way to be like, I'm not giving an excuse, but like you can tell she's like, she's reaching for it, she's reaching. But the fact she really was like, I needed to be told that this was inappropriate. Like I needed this spelled out for me, that I shouldn't be venting to children that I know are children about my intimate life, my sex life, my whatever. And like, I share so much personal stuff, but never have any interactions like that, let alone knowing that they are a child. I obviously have a tiny audience. I am a micro creator. I'm gonna go on a bunch of random asides. This is what happens when we hit past 11 p.m. So she tries to go the route of claiming that she was just such a people pleaser and she was just wanting to show gratitude to her fans because they were giving her so much and she would be nothing without them, and she just wanted to give them what they wanted and didn't want to disappoint them. She leans on not having someone to tell her that she shouldn't make sexual jokes with minors and rely on children for unpaid labor, apparently, which, don't worry, we are not going to talk about at all in this interview. We are not going to talk about that claim at all. That is how I know that these people did no research, and that's the lack of research that I'm talking about. There was no mention, spoiler alert, there was no mention of the accusation and corroboration of her sending pornography to minors and exploiting minors for unpaid labor. Also, no acknowledgement of her talking about her husband's dick size, like details of what exactly she was talking about in these group chats, having people get dirt on her perceived enemies. So much was not included. And they tried to be like, we're not going to go over every detail. I was like, well, you did go over a lot of the details that matter. And they're not really as granular as you seem to think they are. They are pretty important to the story. Oh, God. And then Miranda and Raven start like feeding her the ends of her sentences for her to just say like she was just trying to please her fans and not lose them and express her gratitude. She also starts showing an interesting pattern of language choices, such as saying, I wish someone could tell me that would look bad. So this is a bit of a pattern of like focus on perception over the actual implication of her actions. She's gonna say this a few times of, I should have known that this looked bad. Someone, like, I should have realized, I wish I knew this looked bad. I should have realized this looked bad instead of just like, this was bad. This was inappropriate, which she will say a few times, but it's murky. I found that language choice very interesting. And she was just like so pressured to give in to her friggin' child fans' desires because they were begging her, because she's just so grateful, guys. She says that she wishes she had thought about how it could affect people, even though once she was told it did affect people negatively, she denied and dismissed and mocked and manipulated and egged on a hate campaign against her accuser, but she just didn't realize. I guess, like, maybe she's implying, I wish instead of doing all those things, I'd let myself realize this was hurting people, but like she completely repelled the idea and she does not acknowledge the degree to which she repelled that idea. Oh my God, my freaking computer needs to restart. Hello, welcome back. It is the next day, and I don't know if the first part of this video is going to have decent audio because my computer randomly restarted and that had my audio recording software, so I didn't save or export the file, so I don't think I have one. So hopefully we have good audio in this part of the video. But anyway, we're gonna get back into this script. Also, addendums. When I was talking about the bullet pointed list of the things that Colleen was accused of, she also, I say accused, but like basically all of this has been proven. She was accused of asking Adam for ass pics, which I think she claimed like she didn't literally want ass pics, but like as a joke. She's gonna, you know, say as a joke a lot or to be funny, but like doesn't make it appropriate. Also, I remember in one of Adam's videos saying that she would make comments about his body a lot. I can't find specifics, but I remember him saying that he was struggling with eating at the time, and she basically just didn't help that with the comments that she would make. And then in her freaking ukulele song, the addition of the line "bony little back," and he thought that that was a dig at him, and a lot of people also thought that was a dig at him, and added an extra layer of fucked upness. And then also wanted to add that in addition to allegedly, provably sending pornography to minors, she also, that pornography being Trisha Paytas's OnlyFans content, she also had watch parties where she would play Trisha Paytas's OnlyFans content and make fun of her. Just like consistently made fun of her body, and just everything was just cruel. So I felt like that was important to add. Where was I? I believe when my computer restarted, we were at the point where Miranda and Raven asked Colleen basically when she started noticing a shift, when she started kind of like suspecting that the tide was turning and the vibes were no longer as good in the fandom. And maybe this is nitpicking, we'll get into it, but Colleen basically said there were some fans that I talked to regularly and that I knew and that went to all the shows, and that I noticed that they stopped showing up to the shows and they fell off. And so I thought they must be really upset. To me, it's interesting to have the thought that someone's upset considering she claims she didn't realize why they would have been upset yet. She claims she didn't realize that anything was wrong with what she was doing. So maybe this is a small detail, but like to me it feels interesting to recount that thought of, oh, they must be upset, when according to your timeline, you hadn't even really realized that there was anything to be upset about because you assumed that everyone knew you were joking. And you'd think that once you did realize that there was something to be upset about and that they were upset, you would apologize, you would address it, you would realize. She like says she didn't realize that she had done anything wrong, but then realizes that people were upset about something. It's just, it smells like doublethink to me. Just contradiction. So we continue her pattern of referring to just this buzzword of lies or things that aren't true. I don't know if I really put it in yesterday, but like she so many times throughout this whole thing, not even just this interview, but like the ukulele video, everything has been referencing things that aren't true. There are things that aren't true, and there are lies, and there are things that are true and that I did do that were also taken out of context and I didn't mean, and people are assuming the worst of my intentions and I didn't mean for this to be this way, so therefore I'm exonerated. But there are things that are just outright lies. There are just things that aren't true, which we've established that pretty much everything in this saga that was proven to be fabricated was said by Johnny Silvestri about Josh. She never, ever, ever specifically says what it is that was not true, that was said about her. She just refers to these unidentified falsehoods and continues with, I was so focused on what wasn't true that I couldn't be introspective about what was true. What was not true, Colleen? I just put that in all caps. So then we get to the biggest, I put the biggest skirt I've seen in a while. She's skirts right around this question. I needed to write this down word for word, how she responded. I know I could put the clip in, but like, I don't want to have to download this freaking podcast interview and like edit it down and put it in. So like, just take my word for it. But also, I'm sure if you're watching other videos about this, people have put the clip in. Okay, Raven goes into, there are accusations with proof. There are accusations of grooming behavior. And then she phrases this question in an interesting way. She goes, what do you think they're talking about? Okay, so in essence, what behavior of yours do you think people assigned as grooming? What behavior of yours do you think specifically people attributed the label and the word grooming to? Okay? Can we agree that in essence, that's what she was being asked? This is word for word what Colleen had to say in response to that question. Let me know if you can find an answer in here somewhere. All right, let's explore. That one is, that's the one that got me the hardest when that allegation came up. That's when I was out. I was done. Because that was devastating and shocking. Very shocking. Because my intention and my actions have never been fueled with the desire to manipulate or groom anybody ever. That has never been something I have done or will ever do. And it's a very serious accusation. So when those kind of words started being thrown around, that's when I kind of was, I kind of shut down, and that was devastating to hear. You know, you asked, what does that mean to other people? That's why this was a hard thing for me to know how to navigate, because it wasn't about what did she do or what didn't she do. It was more about what was her intention behind some of these actions, I think. And my intention was being decided for me by people talking about it. My intention wasn't to hurt or do anything negative ever. Now, that doesn't mean people weren't hurt. And that's the part that I wish I had paid more attention to. And I obviously didn't handle the situation the way I should have. And it's really embarrassing. And I wish I could have handled it a lot differently than I did. The last part was said while laughing, by the way. And then it goes into them being like, what do you mean by how you handled it? And then she makes a joke about the ukulele video, being like, I'm talking about a certain instrument I shouldn't have picked up. Babe, the question was not, how did you feel about being accused of grooming? The question was not, why did you feel it was inaccurate to accuse you of grooming? The question was, what behavior of yours do you think people were referring to when they accused you of grooming? There was not an answer to that question anywhere within that fucking diatribe. Even the thing about my intentions were never, my intentions behind some of the actions. What actions do you think people, are you referring to? What actions did you have innocent intentions behind, even though that doesn't fucking matter, because impact over intent, that's like the main point of the conversation. What actions had these innocent intentions that you didn't realize were going to hurt people? Name them. Name the actions. That was the actual question. I have to breathe. Oh my God. Okay. And also, like, I get when she says it wasn't about what did she do or what didn't she do. She's talking about her past mindset. But, like, I guess she's referring to her past mindset, and she's going to later on be like, my intentions didn't matter. And I get that my intentions didn't matter, but she's going to ride this so hard of like, that's her get out of jail free card of like, I didn't intend to hurt anyone, and I didn't have any sexual motivations, and I didn't have any grooming. This is lines, a lot of which are like fed to her, by the way, by the host of like, it wasn't with a grooming intention or whatever. She's like, no, of course not. So just, I didn't intend for this to happen, but also still wanting to like fall on the sword and be like, but no one else is to blame but me. But like, don't worry, she's gonna try to blame other people too. But to me, it feels really contradicting, considering how much she still seems to be writing this claim that like, because she didn't intend to sexually exploit children, or because she didn't intend to manipulate or intend to groom, which has a very narrow definition to her and these podcast hosts, when grooming is not exclusively sexually motivated, but because she didn't intend for that to happen, she's she doesn't say she's completely innocent, but like her then being like, but I get now that my intentions didn't matter. It just feels so incredibly disingenuous. When we kind of talk about the ukulele situation, Raven has probably her best moment on this podcast as a host, and she cuts Colleen off to say, I think people want an apology. I think people want you to acknowledge how people were hurt or made to be uncomfortable, specifically in the live shows, and they want you to own up to that. And she like spells it out for her and is like, I think you should give that to them. So then she goes, I agree that they do want an apology, and I am sorry. Literally like she had to be walked into that apology with like holding hands with Raven to, and like pretty much low-key pushed into giving an apology, and still has like the most half-assed I don't give a fuck tone ever of just like, and I am sorry. Also, like, I didn't notice this until Fat Sajak's video, but like there were several jump cuts around this part of the episode which I thought were really interesting placement. So she does the classic thing of calling everything a mistake, which we saw a lot of in Toxic Gossip Train. She also, like, she's gonna remind me of Shane Dawson several times throughout this interview, and I'm going to keep pointing it out. But the thing of, like, that's not something that I did, or that's not the person that I am. That's, like, classic YouTuber distancing language of, like, that's, like, when Shane was like, that's not something I would ever do. It's something that I did. Like, and then she goes, talking about she made a mistake, but then she goes, when you make a mistake, sometimes you have to keep apologizing for it. And then at this point, she reminded me a lot of Gabbie Hanna. I have thought before about making a Gabbie video that would be like, I have like years ago on my channel, and it was barely edited at all. And I know Gabbie's been off the internet for a while, and she probably doesn't deserve to be catching strays, but like just in this specific instance, she reminded me of whenever Gabbie, a lot of times when she would get called out for something, and she would usually like resist it at first, but then she would fully dive like head first into it to the point of like proclaiming herself to be an expert and then teaching other people about it. Like with freaking tone indicators, with like the Bianca Devin situation, with just everything. She would get called out, resist being called out, and then like want to not listen anymore and just be an expert and teach other people. That is what that felt like to me. Again, just very disingenuous of just like, you have to keep apologizing for it. And it's like, but you haven't. You still haven't. That is the closest and I am sorry, that's the closest we get to an apology for any of this behavior. And she had to pretty much like walk hand in hand with the podcast host into that apology. So Raven and Colleen acknowledge that she never apologized in the ukulele video, and Raven says she was laughing when she watched it, which, you know, good for you, I guess. I'm glad someone found that atrocity to be humorous. And Colleen goes, I just should have said sorry, as if she can't still do that. The point is, you just have to actually try to seem like you mean it. The two of them, Miranda and Raven, go like, in that video, you just seemed angry and fed up and burned out. And she goes, yeah, I was. I wish I'd just paused and listened to my fans, when it had been 3 weeks between everything coming out, the second time around with the Cody Tyler video, and Hi, that infamous ukulele response video. 3 weeks. So I think it's fair to assume that you actually had time to pause and think and contemplate. And then again, many more times she's going to reference, she goes that I wish I'd listened, because again, there were things being said that weren't true. Which were what exactly? Are the things that were being said that were untrue in the room with us, Colleen? And again, Fat Sajak points this out of like, Colleen seems all like guilty at the way she didn't give a response to her audience, and was like, I should have listened to them, and I should have actually told them what was going on, and I should have apologized, and blah blah. And she low-key kind of like isolates her fans at large from the specific fans of hers that were affected, that she was then denying their experiences, mocking, dismissing, facilitating their harassment, etc. And it seemed like it's hard to explain, but like it seems like she's drawing some kind of line between this general intangible audience and distancing that from the specific people who were affected, and it's very bizarre. So she says the video was absolutely crazy to have done, which is funny considering it's still on her channel. I kind of have I'm sort of indifferent about this because I feel like I'm either hearing people criticize someone for deleting something or for leaving something up. I feel like, honestly, that's a situation, like when it comes to whether or not you leave something terrible on your channel or not, I feel like people are going to have opinions either way about it. You know, you take it down, you're not standing on business. But also, if you don't stand by it anymore, if you literally don't agree with it anymore, then maybe you should take it down. Maybe you should. And she acknowledges she was told up to it to not say anything, but she wasn't told to not sing anything. She didn't add that part in, but like, we all know. So multiple people have said this. It's just, she's saying all the right things, but everything behind it feels so empty and so soulless and so disingenuous. So she kind of tries to make it out like she just snapped. She tries to build up to this moment of like, I just wanted to say something, and I just had been told I couldn't say anything, and I just had so much that I wanted to say, and it just all came out. But then also at the same time, none of it came out, according to her. She didn't respond to any of the lies that supposedly are still in the room with us, apparently. The lies that apparently were being told. In everything just coming out, she completely failed to actually address anything of substance or actually debunk the things she wanted to debunk and these lies that were apparently being told. But it all came out. And she describes this almost like she snapped, like an impulsive, spur of the moment, seeing red, heated emotion, impulsive upload. And I completely call bullshit, because it was not like, it almost would have been better. Don't fall, light, don't fall. I feel like it almost would have been better, if a few people have said this, I feel like it almost would have been better if she had like gone live or even like made a video pretty quickly afterward and then uploaded it and then like deleted it because it was heat of the moment. She said shit she didn't actually mean. I feel like that would have been better than what she did, which is she took 3 weeks, she wrote a 10-minute long song, all the lyrics, she practiced that song enough to be able to get it in one take because there are no edits in that video. There aren't any edits, so I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that like she didn't have to sit through it in the edit, but like I would like to think you watched it through at least one time before uploading it, sat through it being uploaded and processed, inputted the metadata for that video, titled it, selected a thumbnail, and hit publish. And she was staring at the camera the entire time. So unless you had a freaking all of those lyrics behind the camera or a freaking teleprompter or something, you had that shit memorized. She practiced it and memorized it enough to be able to get it in one take. You were sitting in that. You were sitting in every word you were saying. You were sitting in the fact that 5 years ago I made a fart joke. You were sitting in the minimization and the rationalization and the you're just doing this for clout and the self-victimization. You were sitting in that, and you were sitting in it and standing on all 10 fucking toes and screaming with your entire fucking chest that you were the victim. Like, I am the fucking victim. But no, it was just impulsive. It was just the heat of the moment. It was just I just snapped and everything came out, but also nothing came out at the same time. So she's trying to pass it off now like she just didn't give herself time to get her thoughts together, when she got her thoughts so together to be able to come up with like one of the most insane metaphors I've ever heard in my life. And then I've said this earlier, but at this point in the script I go kind of unrelated, but it's like, it's truly eerie how like after a career of her trying to be funny by pretending to sing horribly, she actually, like, her voice sounds decent while delivering one of the most insanely callous and delusional soliloquies of all time. And then after this, we get this weird segue, like, this weirdly timed
question of what does regret feel like? And she just goes, it's awful. It's awful because you want to fix it and you feel like you can't fix it. And she just talks about, like, she uploaded the video and then she was talking to someone on her team and she realized how stupid it was. I guess after that entire process that you must have had to go through with it, you then realized that that was a mistake. After you made a song talking about how you just made a mistake. There's just so many mistakes, according to you. She loves that word. But she then realized and immediately regretted it. Even though she, I'm pretty sure, didn't address it, like, literally at all. I know she, in her video fall vlog, I forget what she said about it, but, like, she never, as far as I know, she never expressed regret about that video or about any of her actions ever. But I guess immediately after she uploaded it, basically, she realized she shouldn't have done it. And it seems like she really just regrets the fact that that video destroyed what was left of her career and her credibility. And I feel like she regrets the fallout from that more than the actual substance of it. And I think it comes from a place of regretting the self-sabotage to her career more than the actual substance of what she was saying, and more than actually not disagree or not agreeing with what she was saying anymore. Again, like I said, we get a mention of the lies that she wanted to dispute but didn't get to dispute. And I let her go, like, tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me what sweet little lies were being said about you that you apparently were confronting and talking about when you got it all out and had this spur of the moment, heated, emotional catharsis, pretty much. She describes it as, like, this catharsis that simultaneously didn't address anything that you actually wanted to address. And another mention of the lies that were apparently so pervasive, but you can't even name them, even in the video that you are framing as your desperate attempt to confront these lies. Tell me what the sweet little lies were so you could shut the fuck up about it. So they continue asking about what her mindset was like when she was making it, and they're continuing to kind of feed her lines of, like, were you trying to save yourself? Were you trying to save the character? Were you blacked out on anger? Were you just pissed and not thinking about it? And this is totally unrelated, and I'm gonna completely own the fact that this might be just, like, the recovering alcoholic in me, and this might be, like, a small detail that, like, maybe I'm being nitpicky here. I kind of really hate it when people use the term blacking out to just describe their poor impulse control. I find, or, like, just bad decisions. I kind of really fucking hate it when people say, like, oh, I just blacked out, when to just excuse, like, not being able, not controlling themselves or doing dumb shit. Like, I've felt that way ever since I realized I had a problem with it when Michaela Noguera did that friggin' $200,000 haul, and she said, like, 6 times, I blacked out, I blacked out, I blacked out. And it's like, I don't know, like, am I reaching by being like, it's kind of weird that your husband's a recovering alcoholic and you're just casually using the term blackout, like, so casually? I don't know. That's so weird to me. I don't like how normalized that phrase is. But then Colleen responds and goes, like, it was a bit of all of it. I was so overwhelmed at having these horrible words used against me, because this is, like, one of the worst things that you could be accused of. And I appreciate Raven making her clarify, being like, are you talking about grooming? You're like, stop with this vagueness. It's so vague. And then at this point, she's, like, talking about how hurt she was at the words being used to describe her behavior, and just, like, her inability to actually be introspective about why she would be being called those things. And she actually reminds me of 2 different fictional characters. Haley from The Hate U Give and Harry from Heartstopper. Because both of these characters, a big part of their arc is that they're super fine being, like, problematic with the shit they do and say. Haley being extremely racist and microaggressive, and Harry being very homophobic. But then when they're actually called out for that and actually called racist or called homophobic, then they treat it like that's the terrible word. They're like, come on, I'm not being homophobic, or you're calling me racist when I'm not, and so I'm gonna continue to be an awful person to you. Like, they make themselves the victim of being called out on their behavior rather than actually being introspective about why they would be called out for that behavior and why they would be called those things. That is exactly what Colleen is doing here, in my opinion. At this point, they bring up Becky's story without using her name. They do not use the names of anyone in this situation. They don't refer to anyone by name. Adam, Becky, they don't even mention Oliver's story. They don't mention Trent at all. They don't ask her about the possible role she had in that, if she was aware, if she was complicit, none of that. And maybe I'll kind of maybe give them the benefit of the doubt that, like, maybe they thought it would be more respectful to not name these people, to, like, not directly bring back their trauma, or, like, not bring as much attention to their situation directly. But, like, you could also make the argument that it's pretty disrespectful. Like, if you're going to talk about their situation where they have already put themselves out there, they have already talked about it, they have already been named, at least acknowledge them. Like, I kind of see both sides in that situation. Okay, I'm just laughing at how long this shit is taking me. It's been a couple of hours. I ate a burger. I watched some Lethal Weapon with my dad. That's a really good show, by the way. We're continuing on the marathon session. We are 2/3 of the way through this chaotic ass script. And honestly, I think pacing myself has been good because I don't want to just be yelling in pure rage for an hour and a half. This is going to be like a feature-length film of a movie, feature film-length video. So, we were talking about how they don't really use people's names in this interview. Maybe they're trying to be respectful, but, like, it kind of just seems weirdly evasive. Evasive is a good word for it, but they describe Becky's story of her, you know, yoga challenge and her legs being open, things like that, and which Colleen previously referenced in this song that you cannot look me in the eyes and say she did not make a concerted effort to write, and completely downplayed it, dismissed it, mocked it, everything by saying 5 years ago I made a fart joke. And this person really tries to, I have to back up from my mic. This is one of the most infuriating parts of this entire interview, where she is like, I feel like it's fair to call this gaslighting, because this bitch really tries to say, when I heard about that, I felt terrible. When I heard about that, I felt terrible. She's not even playing the role of, like, I didn't realize at the time that she's been playing this whole time. Of, I didn't realize at the time, it didn't sink in at the time, I didn't listen and let it sink in at the time. She really is trying to rewrite history and say that when she first heard about it, she felt terrible. Bitch, do you think we haven't seen the fucking video? Do you think we haven't heard the song that you had to have practiced over and over and over again, like, sitting in the complete dismissal and how little you thought of this woman's experience, and you're gonna fucking sit here and tell us that you felt bad about it when you heard about it? Are you actually fucking kidding me? Like, this is the oh my god. Like, do you think we haven't seen the video? I would not be surprised if these two podcast hosts had not seen the video, but they clearly, they keep referencing this ukulele song, so they seem to have seen the video. This is one of many times where I cannot believe the lack of them pressing her. But, like, you said you felt bad when you first heard about it, but then you continued to completely mock her in that said song. So many points that they could have pressed her that they didn't. It is... You are a fucking liar. You are a fucking liar. And we're not done with the fucking lies, okay? The lies that are provable and captured on video, and this is one of many instances where there are videos that they could have pulled up. I say, as there are videos that I could have refreshed myself on before making this video, but I didn't. There is literally no way that that is true, considering the concerted effort you made to completely disregard and mock her experiences. Fucking shame on you. You are a liar. She then tries to do this super disingenuous appeal to emotion, this fucking, like, girl's girl shit. I don't even know. She tries to be like, I'm so proud of anyone that speaks out about a situation where they're uncomfortable, because it's so hard to speak out about being triggered. Yeah, it is hard to speak out about situations where you're uncomfortable. And it's probably way fucking harder when the person who you are speaking about goes on to completely mock you and completely dismiss your experiences and doesn't make any attempt to actually internalize it, despite sitting on it for 3 weeks and writing a 10-minute long song about it. The doublethink, I feel like I'm overusing that word, but like, it's, you really, revisionist history, like, you're just rewriting history, and you just, are you expecting us to believe you? Are you expecting us to believe you? She tries to say that she wants minors to speak up when they're uncomfortable, after she made every effort to facilitate the harassment of the minors that spoke up when they felt uncomfortable around her. Dismiss, mock, downplay, literally everything, and then not acknowledge it, and villainize, and then subtly blame them also. We haven't even gotten into the ways that she's subtly blaming the children that she was communicating in group chats with. You're gonna fucking say that you want minors to speak up when they're uncomfortable when you literally mocked someone's experience once they talked about it and watched your fans harass her and did nothing to stop the harassment of her by your fans. Yes, there were a lot of people standing by her, but you saw your fans continue to harass her and anyone else that spoke against you. But you're going to say that you want minors to speak up when they're uncomfortable. And of course, she's going to later circle back around to this and say, it's because I want them to be able to do that when it comes to real predators, when it comes to the real bad people online that are going to take advantage of them. So that's, it's good practice. I want them to have this good practice speaking out when they're uncomfortable for the situations where it really matters. She doesn't say it in those words, but you cannot tell me that that's not what she meant. I'm literally oh my God, I'm giving myself a headache with how fucking tense my neck is right now. So lying about this is terrible, trying to rewrite history is terrible, but trying to pretend that you ever actually gave a fuck about this woman's experience is a special brand of disgusting, in my opinion. So she also, throughout this thing, she talks about her audience shifting, and from the way she talked about it, you'd think that it took 10 years for her audience to shift to primarily kids, but as far as I know, her audience has basically pretty much always been, if not the majority of her career, her audience was almost exclusively children. She acknowledges trying to ride the line between kid and adult humor, saying, I need to read again, I don't like having the glare, but it's fine. I'm just gonna give myself a bigger headache if I don't wear these. So she says her solution to her audience shifting and not knowing where her humor should lie was, I'll make these innuendo jokes and it'll go over the kids' heads and the adults will have something to laugh at. One, I really would love to meet an adult that has ever unironically found anything by Miranda saying's funny. Also, more contradictions and rewriting of history, because she wants to claim that she didn't realize she was putting the kids in sexually suggestive, inappropriate situations, but also claims that she wanted to keep the innuendos in her comedy so it would go over the kids' heads and the adults would laugh at it. So you are acknowledging that there's innuendos in your shows, that it's not a kid's show. Yes, you kind of shifted your content at one point, but you're still implementing the more adult humor, but you knowingly brought children up on the stage to participate in these skits that you're then going to simultaneously claim you didn't realize were sexually suggestive, even though you're also acknowledging you made a conscious effort to keep elements of innuendo and sexual suggestive crassness and whatever in your show to appeal to adults, but you're also going to bring up kids and claim you didn't realize you were putting them in sexually suggestive situations, which also, even if you're, that literally makes no sense to me, but also the fact that, okay, you have the motivation of, we're going to have elements of this that's funny for adults, because, yeah, normal adults totally find it funny for minors to be placed in sexually suggestive situations that they likely don't understand the full implications of. Wow. Like, I keep saying the fucking doublethink of this woman. Like, I don't even want to compare her to Jake Doolittle because, like, Jake Doolittle was infuriating and the doublethink was, like, astounding, but it was obviously, like, nothing to do with kids, nothing to do with minors. Like, what they were doing is on different degrees, like, completely different lanes. But the level of contradiction is so insane. So the fact that you think that that is a legitimate explanation for the weird conflation between kid humor and adult humor, and you're trying to, like, pretend that there was this mental separation, but you're also acknowledging you trying to conflate the two. I'm clapping a lot. Like, it's the mental gymnastics is insane. So I wrote, this both shows an awareness that your audience was largely made up of children, and also shows that you were aware that these jokes you were involving children in were inappropriate, and it'd be easier to believe that she was unaware of how it affected people if she hadn't completely insulted the experiences of the people that had spoken up about these situations being uncomfortable. So she mentioned she's a mom now, so she looks at all these situations differently, even though she did many of these things while she was already a mother. She claims the only feedback a parent ever gave her was about having swear words in one of her songs that she would play at the show. And then she says she responded to that by labeling the show as PG-13 and making it clear it wasn't a kid's show. Which, just because PG-13 allows for, like, a little bit more mature humor doesn't change the fact that 13-year-olds are still children. They are complete children. That language is diminishing the fact that your audience is still largely children. And she's going to lean on the word teens a lot. She's going to use teens in place of minors, in place of children, to kind of, like, I don't know, but as if we're teenagers are children. Teenagers are kids still. They're still kids. But also, even aside from that, you're acting like the only minors that ever liked your content were teenagers, when that is observably false. So Raven then goes into this weird thing saying so many entertainers regret things that they did in their early career that they wouldn't do today because culture changes. When involving kids in weird ass skits and having questionable at best interactions with your minor fans, I'm pretty sure has always been at least frowned upon, I would like to believe. This also reminded me of Shane Dawson because, like, a lot of people tried to make it was a different time argument when his, like, blackface and inappropriate, like, jokes and behavior towards kids resurfaced in 2020, and a lot of people were like, no, actually a lot of people have always found this behavior not okay for a long time. Yeah, certain elements maybe were a little more socially acceptable, but, like, a lot of this has just never been okay for a lot of people. Raven then tries to actually, like, sympathize with Colleen and, like, puts herself in her shoes and basically was like, I don't know if she's trying to bait her when she says this or what, but she was like, pretty much says, I could imagine that it felt a little two-faced of your audience to be laughing with you and then turning against you, speaking negatively about these experiences. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? In the same breath that you were acknowledging that entertainers can have different feelings about the content and the material that they do because culture changes and they can look at something with a different lens. When audience members who are almost exclusively children, they come out from under the influence of this fan-creator type interaction, that parasocial relationship, and when the dust settles a tiny bit and they realize, oh, I'm uncomfortable with this. This kind of wasn't okay. This was questionable. Let me speak about it. You actually have the audacity to entertain the idea that that is two-faced behavior on their part, while also empathizing with the adult, fully grown entertainer for feeling differently about their material because culture changes. But when the culture inside of a child's brain changes to allow them to realize that something was uncomfortable and not okay, they're fucking two-faced. Fuck you. I'm a lifelong fucking fan of yours. Fuck you for that. That is absolutely disgusting. Again, Colleen does the obligatory thing of, I made mistakes, but I can only blame myself. And again, I made mistakes and I should have listened. But in my opinion, her acknowledgement of what she did wrong is so dampened by her language, especially, again, I hate to bring up Jake Doolittle because, again, what we're talking about, like what they did, completely different lanes, like different genres of ridiculousness. But it reminded me of him purely in the way that she uses the words stupid and dumb as an attempt to justify her behavior, but also, in my opinion, downplay it at the same time. I think trying to make her intentions seem more innocent and like she was just a stupid girl and she was just so dumb and a part of her brain was missing, and take out any malice, deny any malice. But she's also taking accountability and saying that it's no one else's fault because she was just so stupid. Like, you are taking away a lot of the actual, again, we're whitewashing the intent. We're just playing the I didn't intend to hurt people, I didn't intend, I was just so stupid. Like, sanitizing. We are sanitizing our version of events, to say the least. They make several ukulele jokes, and then this is a great example of the semantics used so freely throughout this episode, because they go in to talk about this instance in one of Colleen's shows where a fan, a 9-year-old boy to be exact, was brought up on stage, and Raven says, like, there was an instance of a boy eating Cheetos out of your pants. And then Miranda corrects her and goes, he, like, something like, he pulled it from her pants and then ate it. You're making it sound like he ate it directly out of her pants. And she goes, Raven goes, you're right, that's how things can be misconstrued. One, the point everyone's made, no, is just proving that you didn't do any research. Don't put that on us. Don't try to act like you preparing poorly for this podcast and not being well versed on the actual, like, chain of events and the details of what happened speaks to internet culture at large. Like, babe, that's on you. Also, second, the joke was still inappropriate, and in my opinion, that really does not make the world of difference that you are acting like it makes in this situation. The fact that it was a skit about a boy who literally said, oh, I can't believe I'm reaching in there, and creating this situation where you're, like, having an innuendo involving a 9-year-old child reaching into your pants and eating Cheetos out of your pants, even though there was even if there was a Ziploc bag in the pocket or whatever the fuck, you were orchestrating a situation for a 9-year-old child to be involved in a sexual innuendo. And your whole thing is, oh, the whole joke was that Miranda didn't know this was inappropriate. Okay, but you should have. It seemed like you did. Considering you thought the joke was that Miranda didn't know it was inappropriate, that is implying that you were aware it was inappropriate. How is this an explanation? I don't understand. And also, the complete rewriting of the situation, because, and this would have been a great time for them to bring up the video and actually shove it in her fucking face after she completely lies to them and rewrites the situation. She really tried to say that this skit was about teaching the audience how to sneak food into a movie, when in reality, the entire bit was teaching them how to go on a date at summer camp, and she picked a 9-year-old boy to pretend to go on a date with. And the whole thing was like, you need to have food. And I think they were, like, in the woods, and so they're like, to keep it from the bears or something, we need to hide the food, so I'm gonna hide it in my pants. And then created this whole gag of this kid reaching into her pants and eating food out of it. But she literally, like, completely rewrote the premise of the situation, and these podcast hosts did not challenge her on it at all. I need to breathe. Like, it's oh my god, it's unbelievable. Like, it's actually unbelievable. We still have a page and a half to go, bitch. Oh my god. So, like Fat Stajak said, you literally chose these children to be a part of these situations, yet you're acting like a victim of your circumstances. And also the simultaneous thing of, like, I didn't realize it was inappropriate, but also the whole joke was that Miranda didn't know it was inappropriate. You are contradicting yourself. And also the rewriting history of, if she really tried to be like, if you look at my face, you can kind of see subtly that I'm aware that this is sort of weird, but I'm rationalizing it at the same time. She's going to do this multiple times. And again, try to rewrite history and be like, if you could see my face and you could see my nonverbal cues that I was kind of aware that this was uncomfortable, but I was seeing the light for a minute, but I brought myself back in because I was being egged on and they were encouraging me, basically trying to play like the peer pressure card as a fully grown woman in her 30s with her children audience. When also, even if that was true, it doesn't fucking matter, but it's not even true because she was completely willing and like pursuing this with vigor. Like, she did not give a fuck. If you look at her face, you could see the subtle signs that she did not give a fuck. You cannot tell me different. She talks about the group chats and she says that these parts of the chats are deleted. These parts haven't been shown for whatever reason, or like whatever. She just says that this is in the ether somewhere and it happened, but there's no proof of it apparently. Like there is of the allegations that you don't acknowledge there's proof of, but you're just saying this part of the conversation got deleted, but it was like a thing where they would ask me inappropriate questions all the time for my weekly Q&As, and they didn't expect me to answer it, and I wasn't going to answer it, but I was giving the same energy back to them, and I didn't want to actually know the answers to those questions. I was just going for the laugh, and I just wanted them to think I was funny. Fast Jack makes a great point of like, girl, if you have to try this hard to be funny, if you have to flirt with these many lines, these many like lines of what is questionable, what's okay, and you have to apparently, allegedly rationalize to yourself this much in order to go for the laugh, maybe you're just not fucking funny. Maybe you're just not funny. More diminishing language when it is brought up that she sent lingerie to a minor fan. I've heard that Adam McIntyre was like 14 when he got sent the lingerie. I've heard 13, but around that age, very much a child. She just responds, goes, yeah, what an idiot. Again, that diminishing language of like, I'm just so stupid. Then she rewrites history again when this shit is on video and could easily be brought up and shoved in her face. She goes by saying that like she was showing this lingerie and they were laughing about it, her and Corey, and the chat started asking for it. People in the chat started asking for it. And Adam, who's not named, started asking for it. And she didn't send it initially, but it just became such an inside joke in the fandom, and she was just pressured so hard by her fans and also by him, who apparently was incessantly contacting her asking for this lingerie, that she sent it. And again, she goes, and if you see in my face, you can see that I'm a little uncomfortable and that I can tell this is weird, but I am just being so pressured by these children to send this that... And then these fucking hosts are really buying it. It was like, I could see how that would have felt pure to you in that moment. Where if you roll the tape...
Hello. So I just watched one of, at least, Adam McIntyre's most recent uploads of Colleen Ballinger Doesn't Want You to Watch This Video, where he watches back the live stream of her giving away the lingerie. So, but then also in the video of Evangelina Skov that she uploaded today, proof that Colleen Ballinger lied about Adam McIntyre. So there is a clip of this live stream where apparently it's Adam speaking, and he says, you have ugly clothes, but I want the ratchet panties because Corey modeled them so well, or something like that. So it seems like he did ask, from what I've seen, it seems like he asked for the panties one time. However, a clip that Adam put in his video that no one seems to acknowledge is that he asked for the dress. So, worst case scenario, if he asked for the panties one time, definitely not the begging, egging on, peer pressure type situation that she's portraying in this podcast.
And then the story that you told in your first response video back in 2020 that helped encourage your horde of fans to go after Adam was that you initially forgot to send it to him. He tweeted you like one time reminding you, and then you sent it. It was not this like mob mentality. You weren't freaking like being surrounded and being coaxed, and this, like, she really is trying to act like she was being peer pressured by her children fans, as if like she's on the opposite end of a power imbalance. Like, it's actually so fucking bonkers. Then Raven talks about how lots of kids on YouTube are not in control of their career which is funny that she's saying this to a woman that is pretty much notorious at this point for exploiting her children in her family vlogs, which I've not seen. And then they start talking about her relationship with JoJo Siwa, and she tries to be like, it wasn't a friendship at first, but yeah, now she's a dear friend of mine. And Raven tries to be like, well, YouTube is part of the entertainment industry, and it's always been normal in the entertainment industry for people of all ages to interact with each other, and kids to interact with people of all ages, and people shouldn't throw stones at someone in an industry that they do not understand. Yeah, you know what else has been super rampant and super common in the entertainment industry for decades? Child exploitation and sexual abuse of children and also of adults due to power imbalances and abuse of power. You're an adult, you should know that. Also, you've been in this industry your entire life. You think that you would have been a little more privy to that fact, but you're just like, oh, it's so normal for kids to interact with adults, and people shouldn't speak on things that they don't know about and assume the worst intentions of someone in an industry that they just don't understand. Is it an industry that you understand? So they ask her how this situation affected her, and she's like, oh, I'm just so anxious now, and I go to a lot of therapy, and like, I actually think about things now, and I actually think about how things will affect people. And it's, some people have said this, but it's very Ned Fulmer. It's giving very, like, I had to learn empathy. I had to make a concerted effort to practice empathy because that was something that was apparently missing in my brain. And Raven is all like, well, that comes from maturity, and it also comes from growing from trauma, like what you have been through. What you have been through. Like, this is like a parody of itself. It truly is like a parody of itself. Okay, we then get another beautiful example of Colleen completely dodging the question and not answering, like not even coming close to answering the question, because Raven then goes into asking how she's going to eventually explain this to her children. Oh, my phone is about to die. In response to this, she again plays the shucksy, like, I'm just so anxious and non-confrontational, and that's why I just didn't want to talk about this for so long before I came out with, like, the most aggressively callous, dismissive, confrontational video I could have possibly conceived. But she goes on another monologue, basically saying she doesn't want to bring this up to people and hurt them, which is ironic considering this episode seemed to come completely out of the blue and reopen wounds for a lot of people completely unprompted that you didn't even have like the decency to name, one could argue. It was also interesting that she did this on a podcast instead of on her main channel, and I think Fat Sage X says this and I agree with it, that like, well, one, I think she thought it would be more digestible on someone else's platform, especially someone who has had such a long-standing fan base like Raven, who I think the majority of her fan base, it's probably fair to say, are immensely disappointed in her. And also, maybe so she wouldn't get side-eyed for monetizing it on her own platform. But this likely would have meant a lot more if she had done it on her own channel and not had to have been, like, pretty much cornered into the closest thing we get to an apology in this entire interview. She then gets overwhelmed and then takes a sip of tea and then a deep sigh. She says she should have thought more about these interactions again and uses the word teenagers again. And she says she's glad people spoke about this so that they can do it for real predators. I mentioned that earlier. It was a great moment. We then get another exhibit of these hosts being just seeming to not know anything about this woman. I saw a comment earlier on Fat JJ's video of someone being like, they clearly knew who they were bringing on. Stop trying to make excuses for them. And I was like, we're not making excuses. We're making observations about the fact that they are giving completely false statements about this woman, seeming to be under the impression that they're true. Like, what else can you deduce from that except for the fact, like, they don't know shit about the specifics of this person's career, considering they say, you had to take 2 years away, you're not online. When this woman consistently posts vlogs of her children. Are you kidding me? Her children and her chickens and her rocks and her crafts and crafting till 3 a.m. and being a mom, but like seeming to spend like a couple hours a day with her kids at most. I have not seen a single other episode of this podcast, but like it seems like they've had some good guests. They've had Allison Stoner, her interview seemed really good, but I saw like a 30-second short and like Allison Stoner, so of course I'm gonna think it looks charming and enjoyable and likable. But do your own research for your interviews, or if hire a researcher, or if you have one, fucking fire them. Like, just burn this shit down. Whatever system you have going for gathering information on your guests, just burn that shit to the ground and start over, please. So she says that at 38, she's thinking about the long term for the first time ever in her life, apparently. Which is good for her, I guess. Yet she completely fails to grasp what she actually did still. Miranda says it's apparent she wants to make amends, which I think is doing a lot of charity work. I'm like, is the desire to make amends in the room with us? Again, like, where are you getting this? And like, where are you getting these charitable donations that you keep giving to her unprompted? Again, Raven is like, so you're at a point where you know what you did and you want to make it right. And it's like, you are literally just putting words in her mouth. Like, why are you doing free PR for her? Like, why are you playing publicist for this woman? And then come to the end of the interview by asking if she can forgive herself after she has still failed to give an actual earnest apology, taking ownership for what she did, and the carelessness, to say the least, that she treated these children with, because it's just something I would never do. Still seems to fail to acknowledge how she was abusing her power. But don't worry, she's forgiving herself for some things. But whatever hate she gets, she's already thought it. So just like, I already hate myself, and I'm dumb, and everything's my fault, and also I'm a good person and I never meant anything by it. So she starts to choke up, saying that her fans' validation was everything for her, and it was taken away, and she was nothing without it. Miranda says her journey is to learn that she's worthy and find peace, because I didn't even realize this rhymed. Miranda says her journey is to learn she's worthy and to find peace, because that's the squeaky wheel that needed the grease. But this isn't a woe is me thing, you guys, alright? She promises. Her flourishing career was stolen from her, and the rug was pulled out from under her, in their words. But this isn't a woe is me thing, and she's not making excuses. But everything was just to keep her fans' validation, because she was just so immensely grateful, and she was so pressured to keep the affection and adoration of these children that were also not entirely children, but she could tell that they were children. Which is not healthy, to say the least, but she had what matters, her children, and as Fat Sajak says, the ability to film their lives. So, that was this cursed abomination of a podcast episode. It only took fucking 4 parts and a couple of add-ins, and wow, this is a fucking beast of a video. I don't know how long it's going to take me to edit this, because this was so much to get through. I think I might try to get back on my wholesome content vibe and talking about things that make me less angry, but holy fucking shit, that hit me in the face with the audacity of these people. Oh my god. So yeah, I think I basically said all my thoughts on that. Colleen Ballinger is full of fucking shit. This podcast episode is a disgrace. The lack of research is honestly embarrassing and shameful. Everything about it is so weird. The doublethink, the contradictions, the rewriting of history, the wanting to play like the good person, but also still like plead ignorance and plead best intentions, but also they didn't matter, but we're still gonna lean on them as an explanation. Yeah. I don't really know what else needs to be said. Wow. Just wow. Like, wow. I genuinely don't know. I didn't write an outro on this script because I was just like, we're at the end of this episode. Oh my god. So, that was a mess. Thank you for watching this video. Not all my videos are this angry. I just talk about whatever I feel like talking about, whatever I care about, just whatever. As Adam would say, I was just truly shocked and moved and floored at this cacophony of insanity. Just true, yeah, it's wild. It's so fucking wild. So yeah, not all my videos are this angry. Sometimes we talk about movies. I talk a lot about just my personal life, my sobriety, little kiki life update chats, and I am a musician, and that's kind of my main gig, and I just released an EP that I'm really fucking proud of. It's called Tiny Sailboat. Please consider checking it out on my channel or listening to it on Spotify. Please consider following me on Spotify. And I would love to get to 300 subscribers on this channel before the end of the year. I feel like that's doable. I really appreciate you guys, and I'm gonna see if I can, how obvious it is that I should have probably rewatched some of these videos before going into it. But yeah, I was just really fucking angry. So I'm gonna go try to relax my neck and watch some ASMR and sip some OJ and sparkling water. This is off-brand sparkling water. We're trying to branch out from the LaCroix because that shit's expensive. All right, I hope y'all are having a lovely day. I hope you can take a breath and decompress from the madness that was this video. The interview, and then also just the tenseness present throughout this recollection and recounting of said interview. I appreciate y'all very much, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.